The wind swept across the dusty plains like a whisper from another time. In the quiet town of Red Creek, where wooden storefronts lined the dirt road and horses stood tied to hitching posts, everyone knew everyone's business. But on that particular afternoon, something happened that would be remembered for years. At the edge of town stood a small trading post. People gathered there whenever deals were made, because in places like Red Creek, a deal could change someone's life. Inside the building stood a man with tired eyes and shaking hands. His name was Walter Briggs, and the smell of whiskey clung to him like a shadow. Next to him stood his wife, Clara. She was quiet, her hands folded tightly together, her eyes lowered to the floor. The townsfolk whispered among themselves because what Walter was about to do was something most people could barely believe. Walter owed a lot of money. Gambling debts, borrowed cash, unpaid drinks at the saloon. His mistakes had piled up like storm clouds. And now the man he owed wanted payment. "I ain't got money," Walter muttered, his voice rough. "But I got something worth more." The room grew silent. He grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her forward like she was an object being traded. "You can take her," he said. "She's strong, works hard, worth every dollar." Gasps filled the room. Clara didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, her heart breaking quietly while strangers looked at her like merchandise. In that moment, it seemed like humanity itself had disappeared from Red Creek. But then the saloon doors creaked open. Boots thudded against the wooden floor, slow and steady. A tall cowboy stepped inside. Dust covered his coat from a long ride. His hat cast a shadow over calm but piercing eyes. The room turned toward him immediately because everyone knew who he was. His name was Daniel Hayes. Daniel wasn't the loud type. He wasn't known for picking fights or boasting about his strength. But people respected him because when he spoke, it meant something. He walked closer, observing the scene quietly. "What's going on here?" he asked. One of the debt collectors laughed. "Just a man paying what he owes." Daniel looked at Clara, then at Walter. "You're selling your wife?" Walter shrugged like it was nothing. "A man's got to settle his debts." The cowboy's jaw tightened. Silence spread through the room like a heavy fog. Daniel slowly reached into his coat and placed a leather pouch on the counter. Coins clinked together. "Here's the money," he said calmly. The men opened the pouch and counted. Every dollar Walter owed was there. Walter's eyes widened. "You paying my debts?" he asked. Daniel shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "I'm buying her freedom." The entire room froze. Clara looked up for the first time. She didn't understand what was happening. No one had ever stood up for her before. One of the debt collectors smirked. "You serious, cowboy? You gonna pay all that just for her to walk free?" Daniel's answer came without hesitation. "Yes." Money exchanged hands. The deal was finished. Walter grabbed the empty pouch, muttered something about luck, and stumbled out of the building without even looking back at his wife. Not once. Clara watched the door close behind him. In that moment, she realized something painful. The man she had married had never truly cared about her. The room slowly emptied. People avoided eye contact, ashamed of what they had witnessed. Soon only Daniel and Clara remained. She looked at him with confusion. "Why?" she asked softly. Daniel leaned against the counter. "Because nobody deserves to be treated like property." Clara swallowed hard. "You don't even know me." Daniel gave a small smile. "I know enough." Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Clara stepped outside beside him, unsure of what came next. "You're free now," Daniel said gently. "You can go wherever you want." The words felt strange to her. Freedom was something she hadn't felt in a long time. "But I have nowhere to go," she admitted. Daniel looked toward the open plains stretching beyond the town. Then he said something that surprised even himself. "You could come with me." Clara blinked. "I don't mean as an obligation," he quickly added. "Just until you figure things out." She studied his face carefully. There was no greed in his eyes, no control, no expectation, just kindness. Weeks passed. Clara stayed at Daniel's ranch outside Red Creek. At first, she kept her distance, unsure if the kindness would fade like so many promises in her life had. But Daniel never pressured her. He simply treated her like a human being. They worked the land together, fixed fences, fed the horses, watched sunsets from the porch. Slowly, Clara began to smile again. The town noticed the change. The quiet woman who once walked with her head down now laughed when the wind tangled her hair. One evening, as they sat watching the stars, Clara spoke. You gave me my freedom, she said. Daniel shook his head. No, he replied. You took it back yourself. She looked at him for a long moment. You could have owned me after paying that money. Daniel chuckled softly. That ain't how freedom works. The honesty in his voice made her heart feel something new, something warm. Months later, the town gathered again in the small church on the hill. But this time, the story was different. Clara stood at the altar wearing a simple white dress. Daniel stood beside her, nervous but proud. When the preacher asked Daniel why he wanted to marry her, his answer was simple. Because she deserves a life where she's respected, protected, and loved. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Not tears of sadness. Tears of healing. And so the cowboy who once bought her freedom offered something far more powerful. His name, his home, his heart. Years later, travelers passing through Red Creek would often hear the story. Some called Daniel brave. Others called him foolish for spending so much money. But the people who truly knew the couple understood something deeper. Freedom is priceless. Respect is powerful. And sometimes the greatest heroes don't wear badges or carry titles. Sometimes they just walk through a dusty door at the exact moment someone needs them most. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness and courage can change someone's life, make sure you take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in true love and justice, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story like this one. And remember, the smallest act of bravery can become someone else's miracle. Before you go, tell us in the comments what you think about Daniel's decision. Would you have done the same in his place? Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories that prove humanity and compassion still exist in this world. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories come from the quietest heroes. Cowboy's hat face.